So we need to talk about something uncomfortable, and let me hit you with the part they don't want you to focus on right now. In just a handful of days, America has managed to do something that should be impossible for a country that spends around $1 trillion a year on defense. We're already talking about running out of weapons against Iran. Not eventually, not, hey, if this turns into a long war. We're talking about right now, the kind of shortage that forces the White House to drag the CEOs of the biggest missile companies on Earth into a room and basically say, hey, stop everything you're doing right now. We need more, and we need more yesterday. Reports right now that the administration is meeting with top defense contractors at the White House, specifically because strikes on Iran are diminishing U.S. stockpiles tremendously, especially long-range munitions like Tomahawk missiles. Think about that. And of course, interceptor missiles, which are being exhausted by Iranian attacks. Of course, you won't see this in the mainstream media. For whatever reason, the mainstream media is ignoring this. There is a blackout, and even CNN yesterday admitting that the Israeli government has told them that they are not allowed to show incoming rocket attacks. Aaron Burnett on live television admitting that.
Go up there. We're not showing you that because we're not going to show. The Israeli government does not allow us or want us to show where that may have come up, that interceptor.
So all that to say, the most powerful military machine in human history is not calling a meeting because it's winning too hard. We just love winning. It's calling a meeting right now because the shelves are getting bare. And this is where the entire sort of official storyline collapses, because we keep hearing, the same chest-thumping line that we can do this forever. Trump even bragged about it publicly, that America has virtually unlimited munitions, he posted on Truth Social. I don't know who's telling him this. It's incredibly dangerous. Axios quoting reporting from outlets like the Wall Street Journal, basically saying, nice slogan, but the reality disagrees. The Rupert Murdoch Wall Street Journal talking about running out of munition in days, not weeks. Where does that money go? Oh, it's one giant money laundering operation, of course. So anything we allegedly built, funneling it through Ukraine back into the pockets of defense contractors, political campaigns, of course. So here's the dirty little secret. Because war isn't fought with slogans, war is fought with inventory, with magazine depth, with actual physical objects that take time to build, that require specialized parts, that rely on fragile supply chains right now. Incredibly fragile, especially because of what China has done with minerals production, minerals exports. So a lot of these weapons systems rely on these precious minerals that we just simply don't have. That's why President Trump launched that Project Vault a few weeks ago, because it is a national security concern. So on the one hand, you can write executive orders saying it's a national security concern. On the other hand, you can tell us that we have an unlimited supply and we could do this for days, do this for years, do this inexhaustibly like we're Captain America.
I could do this all day.
So these don't magically appear because a politician says the word strength into the microphone. And the Iran fight is the absolute worst kind of war for stockpiles, because it's not just strike targets, it's strike targets and defend everything you own at the same time. And of course, we've seen how that has gone in Qatar specifically, with the strike on U.S. military bases and the destruction of a $1.1 billion sort of eyes in the sky system that tracks every ballistic missile that comes into the Middle East, protecting our armed forces in that region. Destroyed. We didn't have the capacity to stop it or to protect it. And then on top of the fact that China has been helping with telemetry information and data, the fact that Iran was able to strike a CIA station house inside of Riyadh.
On a Fox News alert, an official source has confirmed that a suspected Iranian drone has hit a CIA station in Saudi Arabia's capital.
And they knew what side of the building the CIA were stationed in. Of course, the US government will just say it's hitting a civilian target. No, they hit a CIA station. That's the real truth. Where did that telemetry and information come from? China? Russia? So Iran doesn't have to beat the US head-to-head in aircraft carriers to bleed us right now. They're not going to. And by the way, aircraft carriers are a relic of the post-World War II era. In many ways, they're useless against hypersonic weapons. So they just have, they're like a show of force. We've got aircraft right here. It's big. France is sending one of theirs now, right? So it's not about aircraft carriers. They just have to force us into burning high-end interceptors faster than we can replace them. Because right now, it just comes down to simple math. They launch waves of missiles and drones, and every time you respond with a Patriot interceptor or a naval missile defense shot, you're trading something that can cost millions and takes a much longer time to build. Something that can be cheap and mass-produced, like drones, and we can't stop them. That's not just a battlefield problem. It's a math problem right now. So a $50,000 drone versus, $500 million intercept Patriot systems. So the math is really ugly. And I know I'm off on my math a little bit there, but $50,000 drones for sure. Because a lot of our systems are way overpriced, let's be honest. Like, they're not actually the cost of these things. So, because we don't have any bid contracts anymore, we just, people don't compete for these. They just charge the most from our taxpayers. I mean, look at these, look at just like at Tomahawks, for instance, right? These are not standard ammunition. These are the expensive long-range tools that you save for major fights, especially a Pacific scenario where you need to strike at a distance. Business Insider says that the Pentagon planned to buy only, I think, 72 Tomahawks in fiscal year 2025, 57 Tomahawks in fiscal year 2026, while operations have consumed hundreds. Each missile is around $1.3 million. How many Tomahawks have we sent to Ukraine? Now you connect that to what other reports are coming in today about Raytheon, and Raytheon working on ramping up Tomahawk production from roughly 60 per year to eventually 1,000 per year. That's great. How long is that going to take? Stop and let that sink in for a moment. So if you're buying 50 to 72 a year in that budget, and then you fire hundreds in just a short burst, you didn't just send a message, you actually ate the pantry. Mom, we have no food left. I had a bunch of teenage friends over and they ate everything. We have no food. And it's not just Tomahawks. The whole defensive layer is under strain right now. Patriot PAC-3, MSE-3 interceptors. I think I'm getting that right. I think the PAC, the PAC-3 MSE interceptors. Those are one of the crown jewels of missile defense. Reuters reported Lockheed is moving to more than triple that capacity, roughly from 600 per year to roughly 2,000 per year. They're also reporting that these interceptors cost about $4 million each. So every time you watch footage, if you get to see that footage, because they're blocking it now, they're going to great lengths to hide it from you. But every time you do see that footage of a missile defense intercept, it looks like a win. But actually, economically and industrially, you're bleeding out. The patient is essentially bleeding out because you can't just snap your fingers and surge productions of these systems. Even the ramp numbers prove it. I mean, going from 600 to 2,000 per year is a massive industrial push, and it doesn't fix the right now problem, which is what the US military is facing. That's the core of this story right now. And that brings me to the comparison everybody is arguing about online in all of this, which is Ukraine, right? A lot of the alternative commentary is claiming in blunt terms that we've burned more in days than we used over years supporting Ukraine. I mean, there's an ex-post making the rounds that says that Iran, one of these Iran strikes consumed more long-range munitions than 4 years of Ukraine. And that Trump is dragging Lockheed and Raytheon CEOs into the White House like a factory boss, like demanding overtime, like a union boss getting reprimanded. And that line is rhetorically effective, but here's what we can actually verify. Ukraine aid is enormous in dollar terms. State Department reporting puts U.S. military assistance since 2022 over or close to $70 billion. It's probably much higher than that. That's what they're telling us. Probably well over that, right? So a huge chunk of that was artillery ammunition, ground systems, large volumes of conventional kit, not the same category as sustained burn of high and long range missiles and top tier interceptors, but nevertheless, roughly the same thing. And by the way, how many of those weapons systems then were sold by Ukraine, winding up in the hands of ISIS and Mexican drug cartels? It's like we're living in a clown world, right? So in other words, the type of weapons matter right now. Ukraine has been in a grinding logistics war, mountains of shells, anti-armor vehicles, air defense drones. Iran is turning into a high-end missile and air defense consumption war, exactly the stuff the U.S. can't replace quickly. That's why you're hearing rumblings right now of boots on the ground. We're not going to rule out boots on the ground because, as anyone understands, you cannot have regime change with an air campaign alone. It's not going to happen. It's never happened. Never been successful. So we need to have boots on the ground in order for this to be successful. And just like one clear example of this, you have the 155 millimeter shells. Even after years of, we're ramping up production. National Defense Magazine reported the Army was producing it at about 40,000 150 millimeter rounds per month as of 2024, 2025. And those production goals were still a struggle. Ukraine can chew through artillery ammo at rates that make those production numbers look small. Then you layer in Iran on top of that, and then you're looking at simultaneous demand across categories, right? Some high volume, some high tech, all difficult. And then add on top of that layer the lack of minerals that we have available to us right now. So that's why the White House is pulling the defense industry into a room, like the principal calling students into the room. And after all, he should, because they get no bid contracts and trillions of dollars in money without the bat of an eye. And we are tapped out. We should be able to say to them, what the hell have you guys been doing? You didn't produce enough? You didn't confidence your way out of physics, basically? So this is the part that cable news avoids because it makes everyone look bad. If you have a limited number of interceptors deployed in a region and the other side's strategy is just to keep launching until you're forced to either A, run low, or B, stop intercepting, then your deterrence becomes basically a countdown timer. And of course, we're seeing reporting that puts that timer front and center. The Wall Street Journal, as I talked about, described the U.S. basically racing to accomplish this mission before the munitions run out. Good luck with that. A country of 93 million people with enormous underground infrastructure and missile infrastructure all underground. Small Navy speedboats that are locking down the Strait of Hormuz. So we need to get this done in a few days before our munitions run out. Maybe we should just take our munitions back from Israel that we send them on a regular basis. Maybe we should call up Zelensky and say, hey, you know, all that stuff we sent you over the past few years, unless you've not burned through it, I know you sold a lot of it to a lot of terrorist organizations around the world. Maybe you could get some of that stuff back for us. So we can't, air defense interceptors, other munitions are being expended at a pace that strains stockpiles. If you step back, actually, what does that mean? What does actually that mean? Well, it means the war plan that quietly becomes, hey, destroy enough of their launch capability before your own magazines get shallow. That's a brutal sentence. That's not shock and awe. That's like, last call. And it gets worse because the U.S. is fighting on two tracks at once right now, attack and defense. And a new report out today shows that the United States is using a mix of weapons in these strikes, including Tomahawks, these B-2 bombers. Secretary Hegseth talked about these 2,000-pound bombs, these multiple B-2 bomber missions across Tehran. We're seeing the carpet bombing of civilian areas now, a city of 9 million people. So these now also like one-way low-cost drone systems. These cost around $35,000 each. So now we're trying to basically go towards like more affordable stuff. Like, what do we have? How many affordable stuff in the stockpiles we can use? Mom, the food's out in the pantry. So if you read between the lines right now, they're trying to get away from shooting gold bars at fireworks because it's so costly. So what can we shoot at these fireworks right now besides gold bars? And of course, here's the part that should genuinely alarm Americans. These aren't just weapons for Iran. These are weapons tied to global readiness right now. Tomahawks are not something you want to burn through if you're worried about other major theaters, like in the Pacific. Interceptors, right? These are not like optional if you're serious about protecting bases, ships, and allies. And of course, by the way, the message to our Middle East allies is, sorry, we don't have the capacity to protect you. Dubai, Oman, Bahrain, sorry. We know a lot of your hotel infrastructure, a lot of embassies being attacked and bombed in these countries. We can't really do anything about it. So when those stocks get thin, the danger isn't just you might not win faster. The danger is you invite someone else to test you somewhere else. You got to wonder what Putin is doing right now. Just, you know, the old saying, right? Don't jump in when your enemies are destroying themselves. Just sit back and wait. So Putin is watching this. China is watching this. Just sitting back and waiting. Does the U.S. have the capacity to stop a massive Russian advance that could end the war in Ukraine? Of course not at this point. We need them now against Iran. So that's why these reports about a White House meeting read like a panic flare right now. Not because the U.S. is winning so hard. We just want to come and have lunch with all you guys, all you CEOs. But we are in real trouble, and warfare consumes a lot of munitions that we cannot replenish. So that's been on my mind, the truth about our munitions. The other piece that, again, I come back to that's been on my mind is the amount of dead. The nearly 1,000 people on the Iranian side that have now been killed. We don't have any kind of accurate numbers out of Israel at all because there's, as I said, a media blackout on the destruction there. They don't want you to think that Israel's been hurt at all.
Go up there. We're not showing you that because we're not going to show. The Israeli government does not allow us or want us to show where that may have come up, that interceptor. But I'm not.
It's totally fine. Mike Huckabee is playing bass guitar on stage. Nothing to see here. Everything's fine. Come here, buddy. And but the real question is, how many Americans have been killed? And what are they not telling us about these attacks on American military bases throughout the region? I mean, 50,000 American troops are already in theater and legitimate targets on the Iranian side. So they've told us that 6 people have officially been killed. But how many hundreds of Americans have actually been killed? I sure would like to know. And I hope they'll tell us. So, thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. And our goal is the truth here. And we are vehemently an anti-war show. Hope that doesn't rub people the wrong way, but this needs to end right now. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.